There's a prize in every box. You've known that your entire life. Cracker Jack. Caramel-coated popcorn and peanuts. The red and white box. The sailor boy. The prize. You probably remember reaching through the popcorn as a child, searching for that little waxy paper package. The anticipation. The moment of opening it. A tiny plastic toy. A paper puzzle. A sticker. That experience, those expectations and rewards, was not designed for you. It didn't come from generosity, tradition, or a founder's desire to make children happy. Behavioral scientists designed it before behavioral science even existed as a field. It uses the same neurological mechanism that powers slot machines. The same variable reward system that makes social media feeds addictive. The prize inside the Cracker Jack box is not a gift. It is a psychological trigger engineered to make you eat faster, finish the box sooner, and buy another one. And the story of how that prize ended up in the box, and what happened to it over more than a century of corporate ownership, is a case study in how American snack companies have always understood consumer psychology better than consumers understood themselves. But before the prize, there was the product. And the product has its own buried history. Because Cracker Jack did not invent caramel corn. It industrialized it, branded it, and then used a cheap little trinket to transform a regional carnival snack into a national cultural institution. Here's how it happened. Caramel-coated popcorn is not a modern invention. Vendors at fairs, carnivals, and street markets in the United States were already selling molasses-coated popcorn in the 1870s. The combination of popcorn, sugar, or molasses, and heat was simple enough to have been discovered independently in multiple places around the world. The chemistry is fairly simple. Popcorn is a high-amylose starch. When coated in a hot sugar solution and allowed to cool, the sugar recrystallizes around each kernel and forms a thin brittle shell. Adding fat, in Cracker Jack's case, a small amount of oil in the coating, creates a softer, chewier texture and prevents the shell from completely shattering on the first bite. The addition of peanuts serves a specific sensory function. Peanuts add fat, protein, and a contrasting texture that cuts through the intense sweetness of the caramel coating and prevents flavor fatigue, the point where a uniformly sweet snack becomes overwhelming before the box is finished. The salt in the peanuts also activates the contrast enhancement effect. Mild saltiness amplifies the perceived sweetness of nearby foods. This combination, sweet, salty, crunchy, and fatty, hits multiple taste and texture targets at once. Food scientists call this sensory complexity. It's the same principle that makes trail mix more addictive than plain nuts. Frederick William Rueckheim, a German immigrant who arrived in Chicago after the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, was selling popcorn from a street cart by the mid-1870s. He and his brother Louis developed their caramel corn formula in the 1890s. The product existed before it even had a name. The name came from a customer. According to company history, a salesman who sampled the product in 1896 said, "That's Cracker Jack," a slang expression of the period meaning first-rate or excellent. The Rueckheim brothers trademarked it. The Rueckheim brothers introduced their caramel corn at the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, one of the most attended events in American history, drawing more than 27 million visitors in 6 months. The World's Fair was where consumer products were tested during America's Gilded Age. Cracker Jack shared exhibition space with the debut of Juicy Fruit Gum, Pabst Blue Ribbon beer, and the modern American hamburger. It was the moment the product moved from a Chicago street cart to national awareness. But national awareness is not national distribution. The Rueckheim brothers had a product people loved. They just didn't yet know how to sell it at scale. The main problem with early caramel corn was physical. It was sticky. When coated popcorn pieces were stored together, they clumped into large masses. They were difficult to portion, impossible to handle cleanly, and visually unappealing to consumers accustomed to neat grocery products. In 1899, the Rueckheim brothers, with major help from an employee named Henry Eckstein, developed a wax-coated cardboard box and a modified molasses formula that kept the kernels from sticking together. The product could now be shipped, stored on shelves, and handled without clumping. That packaging innovation is what turned Cracker Jack into a commercial product. Not the recipe. The box. The red and white wax-sealed package began national distribution around 1900. It became one of the first snack foods sold in branded, sealed, standardized retail packaging. The brand itself, the Sailor Boy Sailor Jack and the Dog Biscuit, was added in 1918, when the Rueckheims' nephew Robert Rueckheim became the model for the logo. But the box was still just a box. What transformed Cracker Jack from a snack into an institution was what they put inside it. Cracker Jack began placing a prize in every box. The official explanation in company marketing was simple: a gift for the customer. A thank you gesture. A little something extra. The real reason was behavioral. And it was sophisticated enough that psychology literature would not formally describe it for another half-century. B.F. Skinner's work on operant conditioning and variable reward schedules was published in the 1930s. His research showed that behavior is reinforced most powerfully not by predictable rewards, but by unpredictable ones. A rat that receives food every time it presses a lever stops pressing when the food disappears. But a rat rewarded randomly, sometimes after one press, sometimes after 20, will continue pressing almost indefinitely. Variable reward is the most addictive reward structure in behavioral science. It's why gambling is addictive. Why fishing feels relaxing. Why pulling the lever on a slot machine creates a neurochemical response similar to drugs. The Cracker Jack prize was variable reward applied to food packaging in 1912. The prize was unknown before purchase. Its quality varied, sometimes a genuinely fun toy, sometimes just a paper puzzle or fortune. Eating the product became linked with the act of searching through the box, and that searching behavior became linked with the anticipation of an unknown reward. Eat. Search. Discover. Repeat. That sequence paired consumption behavior with a dopamine-driven anticipation response. The prize did not reward eating Cracker Jack. It turned eating Cracker Jack into the mechanism for reaching the reward. The food became part of a behavioral loop that had nothing to do with hunger. The Rueckheims brothers probably never explained it in those words. But experimentally, they had discovered exactly what Skinner would later describe theoretically. 2 years before the prize was introduced, a songwriter named Jack Norworth wrote "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" on a New York subway. He had never attended a baseball game in his life. The chorus mentioned Cracker Jack by name. "Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack." It was not paid product placement. Norworth included it because Cracker Jack was already culturally associated with outdoor entertainment and baseball stadium vendors. The song became one of the most performed pieces of music in American history. It is sung during the seventh-inning stretch at nearly every professional baseball game in the United States. In a single ritual context, it has been performed more times than almost any other song ever written. And every time it's sung, it embeds a brand name into a collective moment of belonging. This is what marketing professionals call earned media, promotional value gained without payment but amplified through cultural association. The Rueckheims brothers could never have purchased the advertising equivalent of "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" at any price. The connection emerged organically, became ritualized, and functioned as free brand reinforcement for more than a century. Cracker Jack's connection to baseball also placed the product into a specific consumption context: outdoors, public spaces, community, sports, and those contexts carried emotional associations the company could never have directly manufactured. In early 20th century America, baseball was not just a sport. It was a civic ritual, a democratic gathering, a culturally neutral space where class distinctions temporarily dissolved. Linking Cracker Jack to that environment, through a song the company didn't write, pay for, or control, became one of the most important accidental marketing events in American food history. The Rueckheims family sold Cracker Jack to Borden Incorporated in 1964. Borden was a massive dairy and food conglomerate. It had the distribution infrastructure, marketing budget, and corporate scale to dramatically expand Cracker Jack's national presence. But it also had something the Rueckheims brothers didn't: quarterly profit pressure. A public corporation's relationship with a beloved consumer brand is fundamentally different from a family founder's relationship with the same brand. The Rueckheims had built something they were proud of. Borden inherited something it needed to optimize. The prize began to deteriorate. The process happened slowly, across multiple ownership transitions. First Borden, then Frito-Lay, which acquired the brand in 1997. Under each ownership structure, the prize, a real per-unit cost that generated no direct revenue, came under pressure. The prizes became smaller. Toy quality declined. The paper puzzles and fortunes that had once been accompanied by small metal trinkets and real toys became cheaper and smaller. In 2016, Frito-Lay eliminated the physical prize entirely and replaced it with QR codes leading consumers to online games. Consumer backlash was immediate and overwhelming. A multi-generational memory, reaching into the box, finding the waxy package, opening the tiny object, had been replaced by a smartphone redirect. The variable reward mechanism required a physical, tactile, unpredictable object. A QR code is deterministic. You scan it and know the outcome, an online game. There's no anticipation, no unpredictability, no reaching into the box moment. In 2020, Frito-Lay reversed course and brought physical prizes back to Cracker Jack boxes. The reversal was an implicit but unmistakable admission. The prize was not a little extra added to the package. It was the product's core psychological mechanism. Remove it, and you remove the reason the product maintained loyalty for 6 generations. The prize controversy was not the only identity crisis Cracker Jack faced under corporate ownership. In 2019, Frito-Lay launched Cracker Jack, a product line aimed at adult male consumers. It featured flavors like cheddar barbecue and butter popcorn, and included higher peanut content for added protein. The campaign was a systematic repositioning attempt, taking a product whose entire cultural identity was built on nostalgia, childhood memories, and baseball tradition, and trying to market it to a demographic without that emotional attachment. It failed. The product line was discontinued. That failure reveals a recurring pattern in the corporate ownership of iconic food brands. The emotional connection that makes these brands valuable comes from specific, irreplaceable product attributes. The prize, the red and white box, the flavor profile, the song. Corporate owners inherit the brand value created by those elements. Then they try to extract more value by modifying them, reducing prize costs, introducing new flavors, targeting new demographics, and discover that the changes destroy the very brand value they were trying to exploit. You cannot separate the Cracker Jack prize from Cracker Jack itself. The prize is not a feature of the product. It is the reason the product exists in consumer memory. Remove it, and all you have is caramel corn in a box. Bring it back, and it becomes Cracker Jack again. The Rueckheims brothers understood this instinctively because they built it. Every corporate owner after 1964 had to learn it the hard way. The caramel corn inside a Cracker Jack box is a good product. The combination of sweet, salty, crunchy, and fatty ingredients activates multiple taste systems simultaneously and resists flavor fatigue in ways simple sugary snacks cannot. But caramel corn is not why Cracker Jack survived for more than a century. Most snack brands do not survive that long. Cracker Jack survived because there was a small, cheap, unpredictable object wrapped in wax paper at the bottom of a red and white box. Because there was a behavioral loop installed into the product in 1912 that never stopped working. Eat, search, discover. Because a man who had never attended a baseball game wrote a song on a subway in 1908 and accidentally embedded the brand into the most repeated civic ritual in American sports. And because all of those elements emerged within specific cultural contexts, the Gilded Age World's Fair, the growth of professional baseball, the post-war snack industry, and those contexts amplified them far beyond anything the Rueckheims brothers could have planned. None of the corporations that owned Cracker Jack after 1964 fully understood what they had purchased. They saw a snack brand with strong recognition. They did not see that the recognition was inseparable from the physical, tactile, variable reward experience of finding a prize inside the box. When Frito-Lay removed the physical prize in 2016, it didn't just cut costs. It severed the neurological mechanism that had made the product addictive for 6 generations. The backlash wasn't nostalgia. It was withdrawal. The prize is back in the box now. The red and white packaging is back. The Sailor Boy is still there. But it's worth remembering what happened when a corporation tried to optimize away the cost of the prize. Because the prize was never in the box for your benefit. It was there because, in 1912, someone realized that giving you something unpredictable to search for would make you eat faster, finish sooner, and buy again. It worked then. It still works now. And the companies selling it to you have always known exactly why. Let us know in the comments what we should cover next. Thanks for watching.